Hi and welcome to the Bookkeepers Podcast. I'm Zoe Whitman. I'm here with Joe Wood and we're here with Max Tapsall from Crezco. Hi everyone.
Hi there.
Joe, do you know, I don't know about you, we had a really early start this morning and I feel completely jet lagged. I don't know about you. How are you doing?
I am so jet lagged. And I think it's because it's the second week on the trot that we've done it. So last week was a bit of a novelty. And I was like, oh my goodness, I've added an extra like 4 hours to my day. This is amazing. And today I'm just like, I don't know if I can think anymore. It's completely different experience this week.
We were on Accountex Sydney this morning and
Nice.
we did a bit of a trial. I suppose it was like the pre-meet, wasn't it, last week? And then the actual webinar was this morning. It was lovely actually because there were like people that we know in the group who were there watching, which was lovely to see in the comments. But I'll be honest, at 5 a.m. this morning, I didn't know who I was or what I do for a living.
Especially they've been up for a while as well. So
They were all going, they were like, oh, let's all go for a beer. And I'm like, I need coffee.
Yeah,
No, it was good fun. And I do think because last week it was the pre-meet, we were just like having little discussions, but obviously we had to be on like show mode at 5 a.m. this morning, which was a very different experience. And obviously you want to give it your all and you're thinking your best, like, how can I add the most value? So yeah, by 6 a.m. I was really tired.
Oh, but we are ready to go today for the podcast. And hi everyone who's watching. I can see Libby here in the chat. Hi Libby.
Hey Libby.
So Max is here from Crezco. We wanted to have a chat about payments and open banking. And I think there are going to be lots of things that come up today where we kind of need to go back to basics and really just to sort of get our understanding. But Max, do you want to start by telling us a bit about like your background and what you do at Crezco, please?
Yeah, sure. So thanks for having us. I mean, it's great to jump on these. And as I said, I think the aspect of open banking and payments, there's a lot of talk about it. So it's always good to jump on these to kind of educate a little bit more. But yeah, so I'm pretty much the head of sales here at Crezco. I've been at Crezco for just over 2 years now, and I was previously at Dext. So I was right at the beginning of Dext, where bookkeeping automation was starting to become a thing, and now I feel like, and basically I had all these conversations with bookkeepers, but now I feel like I joined the payment automation side, and we've gone back to basically zero again on the payment side, where what does payments mean? How can I kind of put it into my clients, and how can I save funds or money on the processing fees? What are the alternative methods? And those are kind of the discussions that we've been having a lot. We're more so on the educational piece than selling at the moment, which is always nice, and I prefer that way as well.
Absolutely. And I think it's one of these things, me and Zoe and a lot of our community go to events, we go to conferences and we see these stands and we see these names that are maybe new and they may mention payments and we think, oh, we know what that means. But I'm going to put my hands up, Max, and say, I don't really understand it. I have tried, my team, we're starting to implement some of this software. And it's very much like recently I had this epiphany that I thought I knew zero until I went on a training and I'm using a tiny bit of zero. There is a lot more to. So I think we think we understand it, but today I really want to go back to real basics and start at the beginning and figure out. So I know this all kind of stemmed from the fact that we now have open banking, but what does open banking even mean?
Yes, definitely. So Crezco, we're an open banking payment provider as such, but that's all glorious and great. But what is open banking? So open banking was a regulation put in a few years back by every single bank, which basically means they have to share the financial information and not only be the only owners of the information that is in your bank account. So you have right of access to your financial information, which is all great. Everybody probably started using open banking without knowing the term when they started putting zero feeds in. Essentially, that's what you call, there's two different terms, there's AIS, PIS. AIS is pretty much, I can jump into my bank account, pull through all the information and look at it without doing anything. So that's what your zero bank feed is doing, is helping you reconcile on the feed. And it takes some time to refresh because each time you're pulling through all the information that's in your bank account. And this goes back 7 years. So it's quite a lot. And that's why it can take some time to refresh. There's also other apps out there. I don't know if you guys are using it, like Plum, Nutmeg do this as well, but other people that help you budget. So this is more for personal use, but also for business uses. Is what am I spending my money on? Like, is it picking up Tesco? Is it picking up Pret? Do I categorize it in a certain way? And then it kind of allows you to automate your forecast and your budget depending on what you've previously been done. So that's a use case for open banking as well, and that's what we call AIS. Now we sit in the section that is called PIS, is basically a payment institution service provider. Is we can initiate payments from your bank account. That doesn't mean we have full access to your bank account. We're just a messaging service. So we essentially sit in the middle between two banks, if I put it like this, and then the two banks sit here. We send one message to one bank saying, hey, Joe is requesting £250. Zoe, do you authorize this payment? Zoe, who's the owner of the bank account, says yes. We then send the message of £250, Joe's account number, sort code, please send this payment. And then that pings it straight from one bank to the other bank. So essentially, we're using the bank rails as such, as what we call the payment rails, so the faster payment network, to send one payment from this bank to another bank. So we don't actually hold any money. So it's incredibly secure as well in terms of a payment method, as we don't handle money, which is different to card payments, which we can go on to after, because that's where it gets a little bit more complicated, and other providers. So all of your payments are behind bank security. Like, that's why you got a Face ID. That's why you have to authenticate on your online banking, and we can't do anything that you don't authorize, which is very cool. And same again. So it's a lot more secure. For you can't do any phishing, so because you can't obviously charge a card. You can charge a card, but you can't charge a bank directly. You have to authorize each payment that's going out of your bank account unless pre-authorized beforehand. And we have an upper limit of £1 million. So even that's the ideal, is like open banking will help with mortgage payments, with even larger business bill payments, is because when you're sending 10 to 20 grand, you're kind of worried. Or for bookkeepers and accountants, it's like, if my client wants to pay an annual upfront fee, if I'm just sending them account number and sort code via email, what happens if they get one digit wrong, right? And how many times do you check, where am I sending this? Have I got...
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, exactly.
A long time ago, a really long time ago, I used to work in treasury, and we would have people double check the numbers, because exactly that, like that is so stressful. Yeah. And I know like anything where you're moving something into a savings account, is that the right number? Is that the right thing? So just for like clarity, because I think that was a really great explanation, and I feel so much clearer straight away about those key differences, and I can picture where those kind of apps are. So there are some. So when you're talking about like requesting a payment from someone, so I suppose in a business sense, this is someone has I've raised an invoice perhaps, and I'm requesting a payment from a client, and they then have to approve that, yes, that payment can go, and then that money will get transferred to my account. Is that how it works?
Exactly. And it gets transferred instantly as well. So that's what's quite cool, especially in the UK, is because open banking, well, the payment network, which is linked to open banking, and what we do is the faster payment network. And that's been for 10 years now. There's networks in Europe and in other countries that are a lot slower, but we're lucky enough to have faster payment networks, which is 95% instant, 5% can take up to 20 minutes. And that can do £1 million. Like, it's in some countries, it will take 2 to 3 days for funds from move to one account to another account. And we're lucky enough that people can initiate payments and you get paid straight away, which is really cool.
So just to understand, Crezco can help with getting money from our clients. So as bookkeepers, we can get money from our clients and get them to pay us. Faster payments on the day at that point. We can also help our clients. So, and we can help our clients to get money in, but we can also help them pay their suppliers and our suppliers as well through this as well.
Correct.
Am I getting that right?
Yeah, exactly. So we have a new product, which is the accounts payable product. So we got our accounts receivable product, to put it in accounting terms, is I send out an invoice via Xero, which is exactly the same as if you had a Stripe or a Go cardless linked to your invoice. You've got that nice Pay Now button that your clients can see. They can click on us. It will show up a page and say, hey, here's Joe's details for the amount that they're requesting, authorized, takes you to the bank account, Face ID, payment done. marks it as reconciled, and the invoice is paid. Beauty about it, it's completely free on the accounts receivable side. We'll go onto that afterwards. The accounts payable side now is we sync to the Xeros, the QuickBooks, your payroll software providers. We pull through all that information. So say, for example, we're doing payroll at the end of the month because it's probably the topic of this week. I've got 10 employees that I need to pay. Here are their bank details. Here's the amount that I'm paying them. I can put that into what we call a batch payment. So one authentication in the bank that does 10 payments at the same time. So I only need to then authorize it once in my bank, and the bank will do the rest of splitting it into 10 different accounts and send it straight to them. Now that's what we call open banking payments. And then there's other service providers out there which work just as well. It's just there's different advantages and disadvantages to them. There's the likes of Libero and Teleroo that use a wallet system. And then you just have your standard kind of PayPal, Stripe, I think start to do payments, but they use a card network, so it's a little bit more expensive as well.
Is it okay, Max, to explain the difference here? Because I suppose when it comes, you can really probably see me and Joe, like if you're watching this on the video, you can see how much we're concentrating today on this. Like it's just making sure like really clear, because it's new, isn't it? And I think this is one of the things, like this is just new and this is something that's changed and that will be around, and we now need to understand this is how this works. And so see our little brains ticking over. But one thing I'd really like to understand is, you know, traditionally we might expect to make a payment. So if we think about how we would pay an invoice, for example, we might pay it by a card payment online potentially, or phone up someone and make a payment over the phone, or we might do a bank transfer, log into online banking and do that, send a check, jokes, or we might have a direct debit set up, and that's the way we used to make payments, and we still are probably a lot, and in our practices we're probably using direct debit for a lot of things. Why would we bring this method of payment into the mix now? And does it replace some of the other methods we're using, like, for example, direct debit?
Yeah. So there's two sides of this. And this is more so for, I want to say, the bookkeepers receiving money. So I'm going to split it into two. So there's the accounts receivable side. So that's more, so I'm a business owner. To you guys, your practices, you're billing your clients at the end of a month. Annual upfront, however you bill. The typical traditional methods that pretty much a lot of people use is, as you said, is you either put your bank details on that invoice, you use Stripe, or you use Go Cardless, pretty much. Now, the Stripe and Go Cardless, so it breaks them down into three. Bank transfers, really easy to do, completely free to use, which is great for whoever's receiving the money. However, there is some risks of what happens if I get one digit wrong. And that also means that I had to log into my bank account every month and then put in the payment, type in the digits, and send it manually. It's quite long, and you can get push fraud. Stripe, it runs on the card payment network, same as PayPal. So they've been going for 70, 80 years, massive companies. However, the card payment networks, the way that they're structured now is you have Visa, MasterCard, you have card issuers, you have the bank, you have the fraud prevention. So there's loads of different layers that a card payment has to go through. That's why card payments are getting more and more expensive. I don't know if anybody probably who's listening, if they're using Stripe, they've probably been notified by Stripe in the last 3 weeks that they're moving their fees from 1.5% to 1.9% plus the 20p, is because all the issuers and everybody, all the middlemen are starting to up their fees. So they have no choice. And for a business owner, and especially bookkeepers, and even when you think about the small businesses, 1.9% on your bottom line is incredibly, and it's bottom line because it's straight off your profit. It hurts quite a lot, especially if you're processing fees. I mean, we've brought on some SMEs, and I was actually going through this this morning. Is some of our top users are processing nearly £500,000 a year. They were on Stripe. They saved close to £9,000 a year just by swapping from a Stripe to an online banking method. It's because our fees are completely zero because we have no middlemen. As I said, we just send a message. So think of it like WhatsApp came in and said, we'll use the internet to send in messages. So is there a point of sending a text message using Vodafone? No, not really. So that's where we kind of sit in, which is great. So for single payments, open banking has really kind of landed on its feet, and it works incredibly well, especially for business to business payments. So we're trying to make that as convenient as possible. Now, where it gets interesting is the recurring payment methods. Now, the Go Cardless. Go Cardless is an awesome product. No denying about it. It works incredibly well. It runs on the direct debit scheme, which allows you to change, as you know, your fees because you already have the mandate set up. Because it runs on the bank, it's typically a little bit less expensive, around the 1% plus the 20p each time, which is still kind of expensive. Now, where open banking is slightly catching up, there's two phases to this. Open banking can initiate basically a message to set up what we call set up a standing order within the account. So, for example, if when we speak to bookkeepers and accountants, they have, I don't know, 60% of their clients that are on the same fee every single month, and because that's decided before in their proposal, if they're using Go Proposal and so on, and they don't change that, they maybe potentially change it when they're doing the review of fees, but that can happen in person. So it's not too bad if you had to change a standing order. So what we can do is we can create a payment link, and this can be done within the Crezco app that you can just send to your client saying, hey, here's your proposal for the year. It's going to be £150 a month, and it's set up for 12 months. They click on it once, and we will automatically set up in their bank account the £150 to go out over the next 12 months, every single month on the chosen date, which is super cool. And that is also completely free to use because we only initiating a message once, and not pulling through afterwards.
That is really cool. That is really cool, because there's a couple of things there why that's really cool is because Go Cardless, like you say, is an amazing product, but it's costing money. And also our all of our clients are charged on the 1st of the month. The invoice goes out and we give them 7 days to pay. I never get paid until the 12th.
Yeah,
month.
Exactly.
So that's a lot of extra time that they have my money. And I don't have it. And we do the bookkeeping, so we know it leaves their account on the 7th or 8th. So it's in that ether where we are not benefiting from that, and our cash flow suffers from it. So to not have the charge, but I was thinking, how is this going to happen? So you're kind of creating like a standing. I'm learning so much. So you've got the card payment network, you've got the open banking network, and then you said the faster payments. So
open banking and faster payment is very similar because it's on the banking network. Yeah.
And then you said there was another one as well. There was a third one. What's the?
So your direct debit network is different. Yeah, because it's a bank mandate. Yeah.
Do you know what? I know this is really silly, but this has really helped me understand so much, because I've always thought, we've always said, oh, it's so easy for people to pay by Stripe, but it's really expensive. But why is it really expensive? And now I'm understanding, you've got these cards that are involved, and obviously you've got like MasterCard and Visa, and they're going to want to take their cut, whereas when you're going bank to bank is less middlemen. And I'm imagining these tracks that you said and all of these. It is really, really helping. Okay, so is it possible now for us to set up this kind of standing order thing, or is it something coming up in the future?
No, so the standing order, so we have a fix. So that's why I was because there's two phases to it. So because open banking is relatively new, especially for payments, it's probably a year and a half old. So it works incredibly well for single payments. You can do up to £1 million instantly, and I get it in my bank account straight away. The recurring payment method is because we're initiating the standing order. We can do that now. So there is certain banks that allow us to send this message to them, and there's some that don't. Most of the banks do allow us to send this message for standing orders. The annoying one that we do talk about a lot with our customers is Starling. So you can receive money into Starling, which is great. But if your client is using Starling, they won't be able to click on the link that we've sent them. So it's really frustrating for us. We work very closely with the banks because we want it to be as tight as possible, and we always raise. And I'm sure, I mean, Libby was on our live chat this morning, as she probably quote. So our support team is incredibly good for that. But it's just that because it's so new, there's some limitations to the banks that haven't implemented all the ins and outs of it.
And it's just that it's on a bank by bank basis that they agree at what point they will join.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, well, that's where it's a little bit annoying. Open banking is mandated by the government. However, and there's something called OBIE, which is the board that controls the banks and keeps them regulated. However, every single bank does it a little bit to how they want it to happen. So they say they've got it, but at the same time, they're like, oh, it's in development, and it doesn't. The fixed structure is to have access to your account, so the open banking regulations, but that doesn't mean that they have to be a payment service provider or allow us to initiate payments. So there is certain downfalls to that, and I'll get onto the accounts payable on the accounts payable side, especially for bulk payments. But for the standing order aspect, is yes, if you have most of your clients that are not on Starling, then you can pretty much cut 1%, or you can save 1% on every single fee that's coming in. The only caveat to it, it has to be a fixed amount every single month. So that's where, if you are reviewing your fees or you're doing monthly bookkeeping and then the fees may vary every single month or go up and down, then being honest, Go Cardless is probably the best for you, because you can change the mandate or you can change the amount that you're putting through each time. But if you know you're on a fixed retainer every month, then we've got people that have been switching over when they're signing up their new clients through onto Crezco, because it's just one payment link. They initiate it, and they just get the funds on the same day that they set the payment link up for. So if it's on the first of every single month, Joe, you'll get paid on the first of every single month at midnight.
That does sound very good. We have got quite a few questions in the chat box. So
Right.
should we go through some of these?
Can I ask you a question before we go to questions? So we've been talking a lot about the cost of payment providers and how it is free to use Crezco because of the way that it is set up. How does Crezco make a living? Like, how do you get paid? Because
it's good. I wouldn't be here otherwise, right? It's a very good question. So essentially, we accounts receivable. So our founder Ralph had a strong believing that accounts receivable, so payments to a business, will always go to zero. It happened for text messages. It happened for loads of other things: Twitter, Facebook. Think about even Slack. Slack is completely free to use if you wanted to be. So payments have become a highly commoditized market, and with the new methods that we have, like open banking, it costs us close to nothing to initiate these payments for our customers. So we were just like, cut to the chase, just give it out for free. We get loads of happy customers, and hopefully people are understanding a little bit more about open banking. Now that's all and great, but a business can't run on a free product. We then have our bulk payments, so the accounts payable, payments, automation, payroll, which is a billable add-on. So that allows you to bulk pay your suppliers. That's priced at £20 if a company came to us directly, but we do it cheaper, so £15 for unlimited payments, as much as you want per organization for accounting and bookkeeping partners on a monthly basis. And we also have international payments. So when you look at you can pay us a subscription every single month for bulk payments. International payments, a lot of clients and receiving money from America or sending payments to Europe are incredibly expensive through your bank account. And this is another section that we can go on to, is because when you're using a bank network, they had full authority on what's going out. So they're charging typically between 3 and 5% on every single payment that they're sending. Another use case is we had a client using Barclays to send, they're a Canadian business based in the UK. So every month they send money back to their Canadian entity because that's where their headquarters are. We did a first payment with them. We saved them £8,500 on one transaction because we're cutting out, again, all the middlemen and people that have had full authority on the network. We've dropped from 3 to 5% to 0.25% or 0.35%. So think about your whys and so on. That's where they did incredibly well. Wise is built for B2C, however, we've taken a full-on focus to B2B. So we take a small piece of the pie on international payments, and that's what kind of keeps us going, and also the SaaS fees, so the recurring fees of accountants, and but hopefully saving you enough time to justify that, obviously.
Wow, I can see Zoe is getting ready to bring forward some of these questions from the chat. And there, I mean, I do love this one from Stephanie. You know, I love Crezco. She loves it.
Thanks, Stephanie.
And I know that Libby did say that she has been on, and your support team are amazing, which is really, really lovely. So yeah, Zoe, do you want to start with the questions?
Yeah, so there were a few questions about bulk payments, and one of them specifically about payment runs. So somebody says, how about payroll runs, processing 10 payments to employees? Can you send something so it's authorized in one go?
Absolutely. Exactly. So that's the what we've just recently released with the accounts payable, which with international payments as well, which is super cool. So essentially what that allows you to do is think of all the bills are waiting to be paid, or all your payroll that needs to be paid, and you've processed it. There's before now, and also with the likes of Teleroo, you had to download a CSV file, send it to your client. Your client then had to log into their online banking, put in all the details. Your director would probably be spending 30 minutes to an hour clicking, yep, send £1,000, blah, blah, blah. As you guys have probably done as well. Now, what we can do is we can basically sync from Zero Bills or any payroll provider, or you can import that CSV into Crezco. You have all the lines. I then select all the lines, put that into what we call a payment run, very similar to what you would do in Zero. That payment run would be one link, one payment link, so one authorization link that I can either start the payment if I have access to the bank account. If I don't, so this can be a payroll staff that does it for their director, I can copy that link, send it in an email, or send it via WhatsApp, or whatever is easiest for the director to pick up. They can click on that. All the payment details will be pre-populated with all the payment for the employees. They click, yep, ready to go. They'll be transferred into their online banking account. Everything pre-populated. Does it look good? Yep, ready to go. That payment is sent straight away. Same again, because we're using faster payment networks. Your staff get paid instantly there and then. The next point is what's quite cool about payroll in this case is we can schedule payments. So I can prep my payroll on the 15th, send the link to my director and say, hey, Zoe, here's a link to authorize the payment for our payroll on the 30th. Does this look good? Yep, you authorize it, and then it will just sit in your bank ready to go out on the 30th. So you can check this at any time in your account, and we also have a messaging system on the dashboard where it will say these are scheduled for the 28th or the 30th, these are waiting to be authorized, these are in payment runs, and then you also have a timeline of those events as well. So in short, yeah.
Perfect. I think this is one of these things, sometimes when you're talking around something, you're like, it would be so good to see this on the screen. I think it's just very obvious. Like we might get quite technical right now, and it might be that we need to run an office hour in our community at some point in the future. So we might sort that out.
We have a short 8-minute demo that pulls through Zero Bills, and then afterwards, so what I can do is I can share it afterwards. We can maybe put it in the comments, and then
yes, let's share that in the show notes for anybody who wants to see a demo. That would be amazing. Okay, so a couple of questions that maybe won't get so technical. So does this work? So open banking, does it support payments overseas? We might have covered this already. So if you were trying to make a payment from the US, for example, to the UK, can you do that using open banking and Crezco?
Yeah, so it's where it gets slightly complicated in terms of the payment rails, because every country, as we mentioned before, has their own payment rails. So some take longer, some are really quick. In the UK, it's faster. The payments in the UK, they actually have 3. They've got CHAPS, ACH, and Fedwire. Most used is ACH, which is relatively quick. Now, for open banking, you have to connect to the bank account to be able to initiate payments. In the US, they don't have the equivalent to open banking, so people have to fund collection accounts that we can then transfer into. So in short, UK to abroad, really easy. We can do that. If you have international suppliers, you can send money to 50 plus currencies, 90 plus countries across the globe in the same payment run as GBP and so on. Receiving money from America is something that we are currently building and hopefully should be available in the next couple of months. Same again is I will send a payment link or a Xero invoice to my clients, a QuickBooks invoice. They can click on the payment link, and instead of sending them to their bank account, it will show them your collection account in America. So it will have an ACH number, an account number, and we will do the transfer for you. So we'll do the conversion at the 0.25% that it is. So you're saving money even on the conversion. So compared to Stripe, I think is 2.9% now for international transfers. And that's what we're currently building. So that's what we call account to account payments.
Okay, that's useful. So if you are if you're going to make payments on behalf of your client, I've been the person who sat there with a big list and all the people to pay and logged into the bank and made every payment and then asked the director to authorize it. I know that. So if we were going to offer this as a service to our client to manage these payments of people, do we need to set up an account with Crezco, or does the client need to set up with Crezco to be able to facilitate this?
So this is what really is really cool, actually. And this is what we've had a lot of questions about, is because in the past, like a lot of accountants and bookkeepers don't want to have the liability of having access to the client's bank account. It's expensive. What happens if something goes wrong? Then you're the one that does it. So that's why a lot of people, a lot of bookkeepers that we've been having conversation with haven't provided this service before. Now, with Crezco, you have a main dashboard, account bookkeeper dashboard, where you can add in your clients, so new organizations as we call them, invite your client in as a member, and they just need to link their bank account once. So the reason that we link the bank account is because each bank processes bulk payments differently. So we just need to know if it's a Barclays account, if it's a NatWest account, is it like someone else's account, because we split those in different ways. And that always happens in the back end, so you don't have to worry about it. But once we know that, the client doesn't have to have access to Crezco at all. You don't have to have access to the bank account at all. You can sync it through payroll, create a payment link, send that payment link, and the client can click on it, and it just goes through straight away. So it just takes out the risk of you authorizing a payment that shouldn't have maybe gone through, and I would say gives the director a way of you looking after all the kind of heavy lifting of the payment side. And they also don't have to move money around. Everything sits in their business account. They don't have to fund anywhere else. It just sits in their business account.
Okay, and I think this answers the next question then. So Kirsty's asked, we don't need to have access to clients' card details then. She's obviously raising about, payment card industry compliance. So you wouldn't want to have access to their card details. So you don't need to do that because of this method.
No, all you need to do is link their bank account. So essentially, once you invite them as a member, it sends them an invitation link saying, hey, Kirsty's invited you to join XYZ Limited. And the first page that will get is like connects your bank account, a bit like when you're syncing the Xero bank feed. Exactly the same. Once they've done that, they can just exit and they don't have to see Crezco again for the rest of their lives if they don't want to. And you can then just manage their payments, but it will not allow you to send one payment out of their bank account. Like there is no risk, unless if you have access to their online banking, for you to send a payment that shouldn't go out. Everything will be authorized by the person who has access to the bank account.
That's really good. And I mean, and as well, the fact that you're not using these wallet systems, because there's still it feels like there's less work to do, because at the moment I'm thinking how I look at, I have to review payroll and then send the lump sum to the wallet.
Yeah.
So there's still room for error, because sometimes we have it with our clients and we're like, someone's not being paid out of payroll and it's because they're 1p out or something. Yeah. And obviously the money's not in the wallet, so they can't send it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like got rid of another, even though they're really great, it's a really great option.
Yes.
And obviously it depends, like we said, there are pros and cons depending on who you're banking with, what you're doing and everything. And this is why you need to understand it so it's right for you and your business and your clients' businesses. But I do like the idea of it being an approval, them not having to go into the system at all. They're just approving the link and then it's all sorted. That's really cool. So another question from Kirsty is about how many plans to integrate with Go Proposal, because at the moment, thinking about how I'm running, and I'm thinking about that because I set up Go Proposal with Go Cardless, with Xero, with Centre. It's all like dun, and it's a really nice system. But obviously, then there are downsides that I'm having to wait 12 days to get paid and all of these things.
Yeah. So, we would love to. So we have integrated with Engager app. I don't know if it's fairly new, so it's run by Johan and Andy. It's a fairly similar to Go Proposal. It's relatively new. I think it's running off the back of Pixie and practice management as well. But essentially we would love to integrate with Go Proposal. We're actually finishing the integration for accounts receivable with Sage as we at the moment. This is kind of live and in beta mode. So if you have any Sage Business Cloud users, you can send invoices with the Crezco link out. And then with Go Proposal is exactly that. If I create a proposal and send it out to my clients, at the end, it says you're going to be paying £175 a month or £200 a month. Click here to set up the standing order, and then we would just initiate it for you. Now, obviously, the annoying thing is what happens if that client is with Starling, or what happens if they're with Metro? They won't be able to initiate the payment, but however, we will still show your bank account details so they can then go and set it up behind. So it's up to you. As we were saying before, there's pros and cons to everything. We're not 100% because that's just open banking rules. Annoyingly, we would love to be as easy and say yep, but that's where there's kind of the educational pieces that go around. But I think now that we're getting closer to Sage, it would be great to get on to Go Proposal for sure.
Amazing. Oh my gosh, we've covered loads today. I feel like we'll probably have another chat for another hour. But we'll sort out an office hour. So if you're in our Success Lounge, we can arrange that. And I'm sure Max will be up for answering any questions that you have. Thanks everyone for making it super interactive as well. And we will make sure we share in the show notes that demo link. Max, how can people connect with you and find out more about Crezco?
Yeah, so it's really easy. Either we can go through LinkedIn, through the guys on our website. There is a contact us page that goes to the whole support team here. We also have an amazing live chat, as Libby was on this morning. Just ping that through, and it just goes to the support team. Either Lara, Chloe, or Ben will pick that up, and we'll just book in what's needed.
Perfect. Thank you. Thanks everyone for being here.
No
we'll see you next week. Take care. Thanks.
Thanks for having me. Bye.
Bye.